In December 1982, the CCP introduced the Constitution of the People's Republic of China, which was later amended in 2018. This constitution explicitly establishes China's socialist system and, for the first time, legally mandates that urban land is state-owned, while rural land is collectively owned. Throughout thousands of years of Chinese history, land was privately owned, a tradition that persisted even after the CCP took control of the mainland. Examining the laws enacted by the CCP from October 1, 1949, to 1981 reveals that private land ownership remained in place until the introduction of the 1982 Constitution. On September 30, 1949, just before the founding of the People's Republic of China, the CCP, along with representatives from various sectors of society, adopted the Common Program, which functioned as a provisional constitution. Article 3 of this program declared that China had systematically transitioned from a feudal and semi-feudal land ownership system to one where peasants owned land. Article 27 emphasized that in areas where land reform had occurred, the ownership of land acquired by peasants must be protected. In areas yet to undergo land reform, land access was provided to plowmen through measures such as the elimination of bandits and bullies, rent and interest reductions, and land redistribution. On September 20, 1954, the CCP adopted its first official constitution, known as the 1954 Constitution of the People's Republic of China. Article 5 of this constitution stipulated that China's ownership system of the means of production included state ownership, that is universal ownership, cooperative ownership, that is collective ownership, by the working masses, individual laborer ownership, and capitalist ownership. The collective ownership system, individual laborer ownership, and capitalist ownership described were, in essence, forms of private ownership. On January 17, 1975, the CCP adopted its second constitution, the 1975 Constitution of the People's Republic of China. Article 5 of this constitution stated, "The ownership system of the means of production in China mainly consists of the socialist system of ownership by the whole people and the socialist system of collective ownership by the working masses." It also allowed for ownership by individual workers, within the limits permitted by the Constitution. On March 5, 1978, the CCP adopted its third constitution, the 1978 Constitution of the People's Republic of China, whose Article 5 was similar to that of the 1975 Constitution. It stated that ownership of the means of production in China was primarily universal ownership, that is public ownership, and collective ownership. Individual worker ownership was still allowed within constitutional limits. The 1982 Constitution of the People's Republic of China, adopted by the CCP on December 4, 1982, clearly stipulated that urban land belonged to the state, and rural land belonged to collectives. Urban residents and rural peasants were left with only the right to own their houses, and the right to use the land, but not the land itself. Overnight, the people lost their land ownership. The CCP accomplished this by simply adding a sentence to the amended constitution, without consulting the landowners or following any legal procedures for requisition or expropriation. Immediately following this change, the CCP began selling urban land use rights at high prices, generating significant revenue, which became one of the CCP's main sources of income. Simultaneously, the CCP expropriated large amounts of land collectively owned by peasants for urban expansion and real estate development. When it came time to compensate the peasants, they realized that the CCP only provided compensation for the property, not the land itself, as their land ownership had been quietly stripped away by the CCP as far back as 1982.